okay, you just spent $700 million on Shohei Ohtani. You still have no starting pitching.
This team went undefeated throughout group play. There was nothing fluky about it. There's no Mickey Mouse title. So, no, the Lakers earned it, and I think overall the in-season tournament was a success. I'd like to see
the holier than thou.
That's right.
Steps up and delivers a 50-50 ball. What a catch by Olave.
Husky reports that he is on his way to the Milwaukee Bucks.
He's not getting his happy ending this time.
Okay, December 12th. Good show today, Zach. Just me and you again. Justin actually went to Dallas this past weekend to, unfortunately, watch the Eagles in Arlington. We'll hear about that when he gets back. Pretty tough for him, all things considered, him being an Eagles fan like myself. But good show, though. Having on Maria Serrao from LA. Going to break down Shohei Ohtani going to the Dodgers. Lakers winning the in-season tournament. Maybe talk some Rams as well, Rams and Chargers. But before that, let's break down the Shohei Ohtani trade. Zach, I know we talked about it on Saturday's show. We knew it was going to happen by Saturday, by Sunday, sometime around like the weekend, and it did end up happening. He is going down the road to the Dodgers, 10-year, $700 million deal. What are your overall initial thoughts about this? Best offense he's ever been a part of, or best team in general. I mean, he's never been a part of a winning team, a team that actually had potential to go and win the whole thing. So just what's your overall impression about Ohtani finally being on a championship caliber team for the first time of his career?
Yeah, I don't really think it's all that surprising he ended up with the Dodgers. It's the team that I would have guessed he would have gone to at the start of free agency. And it sounds like over the next 10 years, he's only going to get paid $2 million a year. So $680 million are going to be deferred till the end of the deal. So I don't exactly know how that works or how the Dodgers are going to make that happen. But, you know, the contract's unprecedented. I mean, $70 million on average, just insanity. And it's going to be interesting next year because, as we mentioned, he's not going to pitch. He's only going to hit next year. I wonder if he follows the lead of Babe Ruth, as I talked about, where Babe Ruth was doing a little bit of both. Then he found out that he was better as a hitter and then just only became an outfielder and stopped pitching once he got to the Yankees. So I wonder if Shohei Ohtani will ever pitch a game in a Dodger uniform. But you look at that lineup, I mean, how do you get anybody out in that lineup the way that it's constructed right now?
Yeah, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman. He'll likely hit third behind those two is what people are saying. But you mentioned it, Zach. The pitching is not fixed. They still need to get pitching. I mentioned them being a championship caliber team, but this team still has big time bullpen issues, as we saw in the playoffs this past year. But yeah, I mean, he not going to pitch until 2025, like you said. The Dodgers arguably will make back this money probably within 2 to 3 years, given, all the money he's going to bring in from overseas and Japan. And then, of course, just the Dodgers fans they have across the nation as well, with all the t-shirt sales and everything else that they're going to sell. So they very well might even make this money back in the 2 years before he starts making the full-time amount of money that, as you mentioned earlier. But yeah, Dodgers definitely have a chance. Ohtani, I mean, best hitters in the league, probably one of the best hitters in the league. .304, led the American League with 44 home runs and an on-base percentage of .412. Led the entire league in 2023 with a slugging percentage of .654 and an OPS of 1.066. One of the best hitters, if not the best hitter in the league. And time will tell if he'll actually go back to pitching in 2025. We'll see. He might, like you said, Zach, might take on the career path that Babe Ruth did when he went to the Yankees. Jayden Daniels, Heisman. As we all thought, Jayden Daniels did end up winning the Heisman, moving on college football. Were you surprised, Zach? I wasn't. Only 2 quarterbacks this year rushed for 1,000 yards. He obviously had a ton of, in the air potential, in the air stats this whole year as well. Was one of the most explosive quarterbacks of the year. And what are your overall thoughts? Were you really surprised when this happened, especially, going into the last week or two of college football?
Yeah, I mean, it's not surprising that Jayden Daniels won the Heisman. Of the 6 previous quarterbacks that accounted for 50 touchdowns in the SEC, all of them won the Heisman Trophy. Jayden Daniels, the best player in college football this season. It's kind of odd that he played for a 3-loss team, and he doesn't really have the quote-unquote Heisman moment, but he had a game against Florida where he accounted for over 600 yards. Multiple games he accounted for over 500 yards. And it's nice to see that they gave it to the best player in college football, not just the best quarterback on the best team or even have to be a playoff team necessarily. So Jayden Daniels was the best player in the country this year. I think the only other guy you could have made an argument for was Michael Penix, but I think they got it right.
Do you think it was the poor offense that the UW had in the last couple weeks that hurt Penix's stock to win it?
No,
know-
I don't
yeah.
think Penix lost it. I think Daniels went out and took it.
Yeah, and Bo Nixon, you don't think he had a chance either?
No.
I think he was able to catch up to Daniels though. But Daniels just continuously put up 200 plus yards in the air and 100 plus yards on the ground, in his past, couple of weeks. And I think Bo Nix, ironically, it kind of sounds weird, but Bo Nix not passing Mac Jones for that completion percentage also kind of sealed the deal for Daniels as well. I think I've been hearing that a lot from people. Just wasn't able to get it done. And Michael Penix, of course, was beaten out. I don't think Michael Penix lost it. I do agree with you. I think Daniels was just overall just dominant, all things considered. He was able to take an LSU offense that wasn't as talented as UW, looking very, very, explosive on offense. And he didn't nearly have the pieces that Michael Penix had at UW. So I think it was definitely the right call. And yeah, good for him and winning that out. Last bit of news before moving on to NFL Week 14, Zach. Lakers win the in-season tournament. Kind of felt destined, right? Lakers being the NBA's most historic franchise of all time, one of the most historic players of all time, if not the most historic player, and winning it in Las Vegas over the weekend. What are your overall thoughts about this? LeBron winning the MVP award of the tournament, despite Anthony Davis arguably playing better. It's a kind of another. My biggest takeaway from the in-season tournament, the last two major victories, quote unquote, or accomplishments the Lakers have accomplished was obviously the championship they won in COVID in Orlando at the Walt Disney complex, and then this in-season tournament. And it kind of seems like they were both a little bit, as PMT always alludes to, uses the word Mickey Mouse. And so what was your overall thought on this in-season tournament? Was it like another Mickey Mouse victory for the Lakers? Or was it pretty impressive?
No, and the COVID championship wasn't Mickey Mouse either. Everybody played under the same conditions. The Lakers just did it better than everybody else. They were equipped to handle this. LeBron and AD, veteran players that have been on this stage before, and they, as soon as they got to the semifinals, they just ran away with it. Dominated the Pelicans, dominated the Pacers. This team went undefeated throughout group play. There was nothing fluky about it. There's no Mickey Mouse title. So, no, the Lakers earned it, and I think overall the in-season tournament was a success. I'd like to see the semis and the championship played on somebody's home court as opposed to neutral court. But, LeBron did something that Michael Jordan never did, and that's come back from Vegas richer.
Yeah, very true. Offense played amazing for the Lakers the entire tournament. On Saturday night alone, 53.4% from the field. Defense held up as well, holding what was an efficient and impressive Indiana offense to only 36.8 shooting from the floor. So, and like I said, LeBron did end up winning the MVP award. Many people were saying that Anthony Davis should have won it. Playing a little bit better than LeBron, all things considered, throughout the tournament, and especially on Saturday night as well. But still, great for the Lakers. Happy to see it. And last time I'll say it, but overall success in-season tournament was a success, all things considered. Especially, many people did not think it was going to have the success that it was going to have. So, great for the NBA, great for Adam Silver implementing something that people ultimately ended up liking. NFL Week 14. Closest game. Let's start with that, like we always do, Zach. We might have the same closest game, and we certainly weren't going to have the same snoozer. But what is your closest game of the week?
Yeah, it's the one I thought would be the closest game. It's the Bills-Chiefs game. This game had a little bit of everything. Buffalo jumped out to a 14-0 lead, dominated. The Chiefs came back, and then ultimately it was Josh Allen who had that big third down throw as he was falling out of bounds to Latavius Murray. I'm still not sure that he had full possession of the ball, but they gave it to him. And the Bills were able to go down and get a field goal out of it. And, of course, what we're all going to talk about is Kadarius Toney being offsides, correctly called, and Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid just didn't like the fact that got called. But it was a shame because it took away one of the coolest plays I've ever seen. Travis Kelce catching a long ball downfield and then lateraling it off to Toney for a touchdown. That would have been one of the plays of his Hall of Fame career that we would be looking back on if that play stood. But Kadarius Toney clearly offsides. This is the second game that he has lost for them. The Lions game where he couldn't catch a cold, and now this game. And Kansas City's receivers just continue to plague this team on a week-in, week-out basis. But you talk about a much-needed win. That was basically a season-saving game for the Bills, and now they're in that cluster of 7-6 teams that have a real shot at this. They've still got Dallas on Sunday. They got the Dolphins at the end of the year. But the Charger game looks pretty winnable now without Justin Herbert. And, of course, the Patriot game is very winnable. So now the Bills we can talk about whether they're going to make the playoffs or not. And they needed to have this game, and they got it.
You mean there was a call that wasn't called?
Apparently, that's what I've heard.
Apparently. Oh wow, first time hearing about that. Chiefs. I mean, yeah, that call was obviously controversial, but Chiefs started out slow though. I mean, they've been doing it all season long. Killing its first 4 drives in turnover, which resulted in a turnover and 3 punts in a row. Buffalo built an early 14-0 lead, and it wasn't all on Tony. I mean, they should never have been in that position in the first place. If they didn't start out so slow and had to rely on endgame heroics, things could have been a lot different down the stretch. My only takeaway from the call, I mean, I think it's one of those situations where 2 things can be true at the same time. I think it was offsides. Objectively, no doubt about that. It definitely was offsides. But, and I want to get your thoughts on this, Zach. Do you think it actually affected the play at all? And I think you might say it doesn't matter if that was a foul, but my opinion is, especially at an end of the game call like that, do you think it should have more weight on the actual play, the foul? Because I think him being offsides by that half foot, I don't think really affected him at all or affected really the play. And I want to get kind of your thoughts on that side of it.
No, penalty's a penalty. If it's a penalty in the first minute of the game, it's a penalty in the last minute of the game. You got to call it, even if it may not have a direct impact on the play. He got a technical head start. I mean, it's like if we're all of a sudden just not going to penalize defensive players for getting into the neutral zone early. So no, if he's offsides, you got to call it.
Yeah, and again, Tony, like you said, lost another game for them, and catching continues to be a problem for the Chiefs. I'm not going to bang that in the head. We've already been saying that at length already. Everyone has been saying that. That's the biggest problem for the Chiefs going down the stretch here. Chiefs, though, for the first time, obviously fighting for a divisional spot, I should say. Excuse me. Chiefs obviously lost this past weekend, dropped 4 of their last 6 games after starting the season 6-1. Denver Broncos, they beat Chargers yesterday, and they went over the Chargers, puts them just 1 game out of tying for the AFC West lead. Chiefs fighting for that divisional spot for the first time, and Mahomes most likely. I don't even know if it's possible for the Chiefs to win the conference anymore, but the Chiefs will. I mean, Mahomes and the Chiefs will be playing a game on the road in the playoffs if they even make the playoffs this year.
They're going to make the playoffs. I don't think we have to worry much about that.
Yeah,
they're probably still going to win the division. But yeah, they're probably going to have to go on the road.
Yeah. Most intriguing storyline. Move us on. What is your most intriguing storyline this past week?
Most intriguing storyline is going to be the best teams in the NFL have started to emerge, and it might be the 49ers, and it's the Cowboys. I mean, you watch what Dallas did last night, total domination of the Eagles, left no doubt from the very beginning, went down, scored their opening drive, forced 3 turnovers, 3 fumbles by the Eagles. This game was never competitive from the beginning, and the big question everybody had about Dallas all year was, what are they going to do when they play good teams? Because they've been beating up on the average teams. Well, now they're beating up on good teams, and the Eagles came to town, never were in that game. The running game never got going. Dak Prescott might be the MVP of the league the way he's playing. And this Dallas defense with Micah Parsons, Stephon Gilmore, they've got a playmaker at all 3 levels of that defense. And right now, nobody's playing better football than the Cowboys. But the 49ers are the number 1 seed now because they beat both the Eagles and the Cowboys throughout the season. And Brock Purdy continues to play at an MVP level, dominated yesterday against the Seahawks. Both teams with pretty favorable schedules down the road. I'll tell you what, Christmas Day, Ravens, 49ers in prime time, man, that might be the best regular season game of the year. But right now, the 49ers and the Cowboys have emerged, I think, as the best teams in the NFC, if not the entire NFL.
I think the entire NFL, personally, especially with how the AFC is kind of beating up on each other. Philadelphia scored more points on defense than they did on offense. Scoop and score and a defensive touchdown from Jalen Carter. Philadelphia failed to score on an offensive touchdown, like I just said, and fumbled the ball 3 times. 1 from Jalen Hurts and then 2 others from A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Very bad. I mean, Eagles' offense has looked extremely poor lately. Dak Prescott got it done where he had to get it done. 271 yards, 2 touchdowns. Cowboys didn't even need to score touchdowns in the second half because the game was well in their hand. The defense didn't allow a touchdown and forced 3 fumbles, like I said. Brendan Aubrey hit 4 field goals, including 2 from 59-plus yards. They could have beaten any team in the NFL with this performance. The Cowboys in general, with how they've been playing at home lately, has been insane. If they would have scored another touchdown, made it 40 points instead of the 33, it would have been the 5th consecutive game at home where the Cowboys have scored more than 40 points or 40 plus points in each of those 5 games, which is is absolutely insane. And the Cowboys, like you said, Zach, are an absolute roll right now. They are with the 49ers the best team in the league right now. And who would you say? I mean, who would you give the nod to before I move on to my most intriguing storyline? Like, who would you give the nod to as being the best team? 49ers or the Cowboys, if you had to choose? Gun to your head.
They played. San Francisco won by 32, so got to give it to them. And they beat the Eagles by a lot, too. So right now it's the 49ers.
Yeah. You just watched the 49ers play, too. They just look so complimentary and dominant. Speaking of that, though, Lions, not probably the least complimentary team in the NFL right now. Defense came out poorly on Sunday, against Chicago. Offense is pretty inconsistent considering the first half and second half, comparing the first half and second half offense. Special teams doesn't play in line with their offense and defense as well. Penalties, huge problem for Detroit. Put them in a huge hole early on in this game against Chicago. Chicago couldn't shut down Justin Fields. Justin Fields had an absolute heyday against the Lions. Yeah, I mean, that's my most intriguing storyline. Like, what is going on with the Lions? They started out so hot. They were one of the best teams in the league when the season first started, and now they find themselves, playing pretty abysmal for all things considered. And I mean, it's a tale of two halves for the Lions too. Detroit has struggled extremely. They've been struggling all second half, all season long. Multiple 3-and-outs Sunday against the Bears. Bears got plenty of momentum off that. Matt Eberflus offense moved the ball well. Fields moved the ball well. Cole Kmet played really well too. And DJ Moore, of course, really came out like he's been coming out all season and just absolutely dominated the Lions. So, Detroit outscored 9-0, and a critical error by Hutcherson contributed to a more touchdown in, again, that second half. Lions didn't even get a first down, in the second half until nearly midway through the fourth quarter. So, Lions have to get things figured out. They were one of the best teams, one of the most exciting teams, and now over these last maybe even 4 weeks, you could say they've been looking very anemic, and something has to happen with the Lions.
Yeah, I'm worried about them because their defense are going to be called Detroit because there's no D in them right now. They're really struggling on that side of the ball. They turn the ball over, and look, if they didn't come back a couple weeks ago against the Bears from down 26-14. We're talking about them having lost 3 of their last 4 games. You lose to the Packers on Thanksgiving, you lose this game. It's been a while since we've seen the Lions be all that impressive. They're going to win the division, but I think there's a clear gap between the top 3 teams in the NFC, and then the Lions are on that next level.
I mean, they try to pass rush like every single play, it seems like, and they can't get Fields to the ground. If they miss like 4 really bad tackles against Fields this game, rushing so much leaves their secondary open, and their defense is a massive problem. Eberflus, of course, definitely not the best coach in the league, but even he was looking pretty competent against a Lions team, when it doesn't really happen often with Eberflus and his Chicago squad. Surprise of the week, Zach, what was your surprise of the week? Was it, besides maybe the Lions losing to Chicago, any other surprises you have?
I was going to say that's probably the surprise of the week, but I'm actually going to go up to the Meadowlands. I'm going to give it to the Jets. That was probably their best performance of the year against the Texans. Zach Wilson actually looked like a competent NFL quarterback. They ran the ball pretty well, but their defense really dominated against C.J. Stroud and a Texans offense that, yes, they were banged up. Tank Dell was out. Nico Collins is out, so you're down your top 2 receivers, but the Texans could not get the running game established. That was the worst game of C.J. Stroud's career to this point, and it just goes to show that this Jets defense is still really good. All we talk about is Zach Wilson and his struggles, and the Jets offense can't get out of their own way. Their defense is still very good and gives them a chance in every game they play. And that was the kind of Jet performance that we've been waiting to see out of them all year, and maybe we would have gotten it more if Aaron Rodgers were healthy. But that was a very impressive performance by the Jets.
Yeah, this is my surprise of the week too. No surprise. Zach Wilson, best game of his career. I think it was his best game of his career. 301 yards, 2 touchdowns. Offense played really well, and the defense got back to their form. And like you said, maybe gave Stroud his worst game of his career. Only The offense in general mustered only 144 yards, only 63 passing, 2.8 yards per play, and went 1-12 on third downs. Yeah, this was I don't know if Texans are just overlooking the Jets or what happened here, but it was a weird game for sure, and it's definitely my surprise of the week. Shootout of the week. Zach, what was a shootout of the week?
We're going to Baltimore, the Ravens and the Rams. This was maybe the most fun game of the day. Lamar Jackson continues to show why he's an MVP candidate, MVP frontrunner. 3 touchdowns, 316 yards passing, also rushed for 70 yards. Odell Beckham, Isaiah Likely, Zay Flowers all got involved. Each had a touchdown in this game. The Ravens were able to pull this out because Tylan Wallace had the punt return touchdown. Maybe the most exciting play in football, by the way, is a walk-off punt return touchdown. Second time we've seen that this year. Xavier Gibson did it in the opener on Monday night for the Jets against the Bills. Big-time win for the Ravens. They go to 10-3. They're now the number 1 seed in the AFC. How about Matthew Stafford kind of turning the clock back? 294 yards, 3 touchdowns. Yep. Cooper Kupp had a big day, very reminiscent of what we saw a couple years ago. Kyron Williams ran the ball effectively. The Rams gave themselves opportunities to win this game. It's just the Ravens were able to take it late. And we thought with the weather the way that it was, it could be kind of a sloppy game. It was anything but.
Yeah, this is my shootout. I mean, it's for many reasons why it's the shootout of the week. It was the most high-scoring game of the week. But Ravens passing, their deep balls was amazing in this game. First 2 touchdown passes, 54 yards to Isaiah Likely, like you said, Zach, and then 46 to Beckham Jr. For the second touchdown of the game. Jackson took multiple other deep shots in the game as well. So I was just surprised by the emergence of their deep ball game, something that we haven't really been seeing a whole lot by the Ravens really this year. But most importantly, their whole Lamar Jackson's entire time there at the Ravens, and just the Ravens in general, they're not really known to be a team that has explosive offense at the wide receiver room, and definitely don't really take deep shots down the field. So it was really cool seeing that. Zay Flowers, you already said, Zach, rise of him. Ravens in good spot for the number 1 seed in that AFC, and probably the AFC North crown as well. So yeah, this is an impressive performance, all things considered. Puka Nacua, I'll mention him as well. He played really, really well. You mentioned Matt Stafford already. He played obviously he played amazing too. But Puka Nacua, not only did he catch 5 passes for 84 yards, but he also drew 2 pass interference penalties that moved the ball 15 yards and 16 yards each. So kind of off the stat things you don't really think of, but overall played really well. Cooper Kupp played really well too. Both teams just, deserve to win this game really, but it was just the Ravens at the end of the day that were able to get that win in overtime. And yeah, it was a really, really fun game to watch. Other end, we're going to have the same snoozer of the week, so I'll let you go first.
It's probably the snoozer of the NFL season so far. Maybe one of the biggest snoozers in NFL history. Vikings Raiders in a dome. Like, they didn't even have the excuse of bad weather. They didn't have, they didn't have anything. Josh Dobbs got benched for Nick Mullins. What is there to say? This was just this game set football back 20 years, and if you watch the entire thing, you're a sicko.
There was almost double the amount of yards punting than there was total yards of offense. So both teams combined for 830 yards punting and then only 433 yards of offense. Do you think the Josh Dobbs era at Minnesota might be over? I don't think so, because really they have no other option.
Yeah, I don't think it's over.
He was benched for Nick Mullins.
I don't think it's over. I think they'll go back to him next week, but I'm sure it'll be a short leash.
Yeah. This game saw his first 2 passes nearly be intercepted and completed only 10 of his 23 total passes on the game, only for 63 yards, while taking 5 sacks. Of course, that's not all being on him. Vikings defense played pretty well, though. Low-scoring game, and the offense obviously didn't show up at all. But Justin Jefferson, he does return, only to leave the game again injured. Kind of sad, all things considered. I don't know what his status is going to be going forward. I think we did find out he's not going to play next game. I think I saw earlier, but I might still be in the air. I'm not really sure. But yeah, not really much else to say about this game. Just Jefferson came back, had to leave early though. Offense, absolutely terrible for the Raiders, and yeah, might be the worst game of the season, like you said, Zach. I agree. What other games did we miss? Bucks Falcons, pretty good. I mean, but good for the Bucks. Baker Mayfield got it done again. Late game heroics, able to get the Bucks the win against the Falcons. I don't really have much else to say about this game.
Yeah, no, Baker Mayfield played pretty well. This was very similar to the Texans game, except the Buccaneers are able to finish it down the stretch. And, again, what Arthur Smith continues to do with Bijan Robinson should be investigated for a war crime. 10 carries for 34 yards, and, he's probably the best weapon they've got. Kyle Pitts only having 3 catches. I never understand the Falcons' offensive strategy. I would get the ball to my best players, but that's just me. What do I know?
Atlanta fans have to hate and love Desmond Ridder at the same time. Careless with the football, fumbling twice, throwing an interception that was essentially a pick 6, but then doing heroics in the fourth quarter when they need him the most, playing pretty fun football, all things considered, but obviously not getting it done and not taking care of the ball, most importantly. Bucks, again, did do enough to win, and Falcons' offense continues just to look really bad under Ridder and not utilizing their playmakers the best that they can. Colts, Bengals, Jake Browning might be legit.
Yeah, sure looks like
24. 275, 2 touchdowns, only 1 interception. He ran for a score too. This was obviously coming off of his primetime game. I think that was a Monday night game.
Yeah, it was last week. Yep.
Yeah, Monday night game. I know it was a primetime game. I just wasn't sure if it was Sunday or Monday. Well, so Jake Browning, what do you think he has a potential to at least lead the Bengals to the playoffs? Or do you think
it's certainly out there. Again, there's a lot of 7-6 teams that, they're in the conversation. The Bengals are probably the most talented of all these 7-6 teams when you consider the Steelers, the Colts, the Broncos. The Bengals probably have the most talent. They have a very winnable game on Saturday because they're playing the Vikings at home. Then they go to Pittsburgh before they would have to go to Kansas City. So they have a decent chance to win their next 2 games, get to 9-6. And if you can do that, you're probably going to be in the playoffs because it could come down to Week 18 against the Browns. Both those teams obviously in the playoff hunt. And, yeah, the Bengals, very alive.
Yeah, using their run game, too. I saw against the Colts this past weekend. Chase Brown, rookie, came out, 54-yard touchdown. He also had a 25-yard reception, a couple of runs, 31 yards and a 15-yard against Jacksonville. And it's, he's been playing pretty good the last couple of weeks. Been opening up Mixon as well. Joe Mixon's been able to kind of run the ball with him taking more of the longer snaps. And yeah, I love seeing the Bengals utilize their run game these last couple of games. And it's really been showing out, and it's been helping the Bengals a lot, of course. That's obvious.
Yep.
Jags Browns. We all thought it was going to be a bit of a snoozer, but I think Joe Flacco might be here to stay in Cleveland. What do you think?
Joe Flacco always played well in Cleveland, didn't he, when he was a quarterback for the Ravens? So I guess it's no surprise that he's doing it as a member of the Browns. 311 yards, and it's a little surprising that they threw the ball 45 times, considering that this you would think is going to be a run-first team. Jerome Ford with 12 carries, Kareem Hunt had only 10, but Joe Flacco had it going downfield. He made some great throws to David Njoku, Amari Cooper. He's throwing back shoulder fades. This is the best quarterback play the Browns have probably had all season. Yes, I'm counting Deshaun Watson, and that Joe Flacco obviously knows what it takes to win a Super Bowl. He's been there before, been through the ringer, and he might be the guy that the Browns need right now. And Trevor Lawrence gutted it out, but he threw 3 interceptions. And now you look at the Jags, only a game up in the AFC South, 4th seed right now in the AFC. So They need to get it together because they got the Ravens at home next week. I'm a little surprised that they had Trevor Lawrence play this game. I might have rested him for the Raven game next week.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. Do you think they let him out too soon? And it sounds like you think they did. I agree. I think he shouldn't have. But their backup didn't do anything against the Bengals though. And I actually forget what his name is.
TJ Beathard.
Beathard, yeah, the backup. He didn't do anything against the Bengals. So do you think the Jags had to kind of, force their hand here because
sure seems like it
didn't really have any backup plans.
Yeah, but if you're going to lose anyway, then you might as well not risk your quarterback.
Just take an L. Yeah. Defense was weird for the Jaguars. They allowed 2 touchdown passes to pretty wide open receivers, like really, really wide open receivers. It looked really bad at some points, but they also did set up 14 points off forced turnover. So Jags playing the defense for the Jags playing good and bad at the same time was a really weird day for them. But if they could have, maybe had a little bit better coverage, things could have been different for the Jags. But like you said, Zach, another AFC, like the Chiefs, another AFC team in a weird position where we didn't really think they would be at this time of the year. Panthers, Saints defense kind coming up big. Not really hard against the Panthers, of course. Young has been kind of struggling all season long, but they allowed 239 yards of total offense, while Young threw for only just over 150. Saints defense, I think, was what ended up helping them win this game overall. Panthers just don't have a pass game at all. It's not all on Young. It's his pass catchers too, and his offensive line have been a problem all season long as well. But yeah, just Young awful, and offense for the Panthers awful. And I think it was a lot of just for the Saints defense. They showed up pretty well too. I don't really have much else to say about this game. Seahawks 49ers, we already kind of been to at length. Unless you have anything else to say about that game, I really don't. Did we get the Broncos Chargers? I don't think we really.
No, let's go ahead and get to that. I mean, the Broncos are only a game back in the division now. Russell Wilson's playing like Russell Wilson again, and Cortland Sutton with one of the most ridiculous catches of the season. But if you're a Charger fan, of course, the big story is Justin Herbert breaking his finger, so he's probably going to be out for the year. How about, I think we all got our upsets right this week because I picked the Broncos to win. I think Justin had the Lions over the Bears over the Lions. I forget what you had.
What did I have? I don't even know what. I think I actually might have. I have to go back and look. I actually don't know what I had, but it was it's kind of weird day in the NFL, and it's the playoff picture getting interesting. That's for sure.
Playoff
picture is definitely getting interesting. Obviously touch base on the Eagles Cowboys at length already. So new week's resolution, Zach. What is your new week's resolution?
New week's resolution. So yeah, we don't have to talk about Shohei Ohtani's contract anymore. So there's that. My new week's resolution is I want to see the Miami Dolphins start beating some good teams, and they're not going to do it today because they're going to play the Titans. They're 7-0 against teams that are below 500. They're averaging 37 a game. But let's see what they do when they get the Cowboys in a couple weeks. Let's see what they do when they get the Ravens coming up. They get the Bills at the end of the season. We're going to get to find out a lot about the Dolphins, but it isn't going to be tonight. We're going to see if they can start beating some good teams, and they need to because they right now are on pace with the Ravens for the number 1 seed. And, it's one of those, as much as Kansas City struggled the last 2 weeks, even if they have to go to Miami, I probably would still trust the Chiefs in the playoff game over the Dolphins right now, unless I see Miami start beating some quality teams.
Yeah, and I know we mentioned it earlier, maybe like a month ago, but do you think this year might be the year the NFC kind of takes over, quote unquote, over the AFC as like more the dominant conference?
Yeah, I think the AFC is the deeper conference, but I think the firepower at the top of the NFC is better than the firepower at the top of the AFC. I think the Ravens are the best team in the AFC right now. But you look at the NFC; those top 3 are 3 of the 5 best teams in the league.
Yeah, and of course, a lot of that has been quarterback issues for the AFC.
Yeah, a lot of AFC teams dealing with quarterback problems.
Yeah, my new week's resolution: USC basketball needs to get better. 5-4 with a bad loss to Long Beach State over the weekend. USC led by many as 17 points in the first half before Long Beach State used a late surge to come over an overtime victory of 84-79. USC missed 16 free throws, turned the ball over 19 times. Isaiah Collier, the freshman for USC, struggled from the free throw line. Duo star freshmen Boogie Ellis and Isaiah Collier have not been elevating their overall play for USC at all. They've lost 3 of the last 4 games now after a 4-1 start to the season. Supposed to be one of the best teams in the league, but now they've lost to UC Irvine, Oklahoma, Gonzaga, and Long Beach State. Like I said, Bronny just is all on the hillside of Bronny James making his debut and scored in limited action after returning from cardiac arrest, which we already know, or whatever his cardiac issues were. But I don't want to speculate. But yeah, USC, especially on the heels of Bronny James coming into town, starting to play some minutes for the team. They need to get some things figured out because, like I said, they had pretty high expectations, all things considered, going to the league or going to the season, and they've been struggling, and they need to figure things out fast. All right, man, let's move on to our interview with Maria Serrao. Going to break down Shohei Ohtani, some Rams, Chargers as well, and then Lakers winning the in-season tournament as well. But without further ado, let's head to the City of Angels, and we'll see you on the other side. Okay, we now head to the City of Angels and bring back on recurring guest Maria Serrao from RPV-TV, Channel 33 in the local Los Angeles area. Maria, how you doing? Had to have you on. Shohei Ohtani coming out. Not coming out. Going to the Dodgers next year. I want to get your thoughts on this first off and foremost, we'll get into some Rams, Chargers as well, and then maybe even some Lakers winning the in-season tournament at the end. But I want to get your thoughts on the craziness that was going on with this Shohei Ohtani deal. You go on Twitter, you go online, ESPN, Athletic, it doesn't really matter where you went. You were hearing reports all throughout the woodwork about where he was going to go. Giants, Cubs, Toronto. And it's funny because the team that everyone thought he was going to go to at the first place, he ended up actually going to, despite all the whisper down the lane that was going on with this deal. And so what was the overall impression? Like, were you ever doubtful that he was not going to the Dodgers? Because even before the 2023 season even started last year, it was pretty much a lot of speculation that he was indeed going to go to the Dodgers. And just at the end of the day, I mean, just kind of take me through your thoughts on him finally choosing the Dodgers, and then just in light of especially all that, whispering and false narratives that were going on online about where else he might sign.
Well, thanks for having me back on. And yes, it has kind of been Ohtani crazy here in Los Angeles. And, it actually kind of started in August when after he had that injury and then he stopped playing baseball, and it was, okay, well, he's a free agent after the season's over. Where's he going? And of course, there was a lot of Dodger buzz. And then there was a lot of buzz that, he likes to sort of have that autonomy, and maybe he was going to stay in Anaheim. And so we were all kind of like, well, we'll see. And so all the reporters in Los Angeles are like, yeah, maybe he'll just stay in Anaheim. There wasn't a lot of talk about the Dodger talk it was kind of in the background, but nothing. And then when the season ended, I had a list. It was, here were the teams that were for sure going to talk to Ohtani, and they were in the running. It was the Giants, it was Toronto, it was Texas, it was Houston, it was Atlanta, it was St. Louis. Let me see. It was San Diego, Seattle. So there was, the list when I ran out of fingers. That was just like on and on and on and on. And then it really sort of came down to, okay, it was either the Dodgers or Toronto. And that's when it just got like bat crazy over the last few days when the reports were, my phone was blowing up. I'm like, what is going on? And I'm sure you saw the same things on Twitter and Instagram. It was just like, Ohtani is flying to Toronto and he's going to sign with Toronto. And it was kind of crazy. And so then Saturday morning, I am actually in Macy's and my phone just starts dinging, 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 dinging. And I'm like, what is happening? And it's Ohtani is going to the Dodgers as per his Instagram account. And I will not report anything unless the team has told me, the players told me. So he did. He told everybody. He's like, I'm going to the Dodgers. It's the team I picked. And there were thousands of articles people wrote about this guy leading up to this moment.
Yeah, it was a real world, like where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Like it was a real life situation happening there. I mean, I heard reports he was on Toronto and on a plane going to the Toronto, and then I heard he wasn't. You go on Twitter. I kid you not, Maria. I was on Twitter on this would have been Friday, I guess. I read one tweet was he made a decision. The next one, he has not made a decision.
Yeah.
And the third one I read, he's made a decision. And then the fourth one I read, he has not made a decision. And then you said it. I mean, every single team in the MLB was being thrown out there. Every single team. I haven't even heard of St. Louis. You just said St. Louis. That's even another team that I've heard of now. It was just insanity. And, the speculation that was going on, the little birdies, everything it was just crazy. And then, finally going to the Dodgers. And it's funny, ironically, and like I said, at the end of the day, he ended up going to the team everyone thought he was going to go to.
But what's kind of funny about that though is, somebody who covers the Dodgers every day and the Angels. So, the Dodgers need pitching like very badly. And so even though it was like, you've got kids that are coming up, which is great. And you've hopefully got Tony Gonsolin and Walker Buehler coming back, and Clayton Kershaw maybe mid-season. And so there was a part of me that thought, well, if we get Yamamoto, he starts on day one, that's fantastic. But the deal that we're hearing now is that Ohtani he'll defer some of his money so the Dodgers can go out
a lot of his money.
So that they can go out and I don't know if they'll get Yamamoto. That's, maybe they're talking 300 million for him, possibly. It's monopoly money at this point for the rest of us, but they definitely have to get 2 starting pitchers. There's no question.
Yeah, and I mean, how about that? That report, the reports. I mean, it was only an hour before me and you came online here to talk. I mean, an hour or two before these reports were coming out about him deferring 68 million of his yearly,
Yeah.
salary until the end of his 10-year contract. And I've never seen. I mean, I guess it kind of shows a win now mentality for Shohei Ohtani, though, wouldn't you say? I mean, what else would it really be?
Well, I think it does. I think that he has said more than anything that he really wants to win now.
Yeah.
And he wanted to go to a team that was ready to win and set up to win. And obviously, the Dodgers are a very good team. They've got Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman and Will Smith. You've got so many guys that are ready to go. And they've got a pretty good bullpen already, but the starters is really kind of that's the Achilles. So, for him to defer some money. Now, in the end, we don't really know how much yet, how this is all going to go down. And I'm not sure we're going to exactly know because, as you know, like these things kind of leak out. We don't exactly know how it's going to go. But my big question mark is, because we've never really been told, did he just have Tommy John surgery or did he have a stem cell procedure? We don't really know that. Now, I would assume he has to tell the Dodgers and he has to disclose that, but
Yeah.
he doesn't have to tell the media. And so think about this. He starts next season, day 1 as a hitter, but what if he never pitches again? Is
Yeah.
he a $700 million hitter?
Yeah. Well, Zach, so Zach, my co-host, he in the before this interview in our intro that we do, he mentioned it. He might take the same path that Babe Ruth took when he went to the Yankees. He might never pitch again.
We don't
Maybe
know.
he might end up finding that he's more effective and can provide more to a team when he does play strictly offense, especially as his arm health gets a little bit older and
Yes.
it's with all these with the surgery he just had. But of course, not pitching for the next season, 2024. That's pretty much already a lock. He's not going to pitch next
No.
season unless I'm here. Okay, I'm right when I
Yeah.
say that. But let's
No.
go to the offensive side of the ball. I mean, the
Yes.
offensive side though. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I think he will hit third. Correct? He's probably going to hit third in the lineup. I mean, I know that might not be known yet. It's still time will tell. But given the situation, he does hit third behind Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman. Would that be the best 3 starting lineup in MLB
It's pretty
history? One of
good,
the
isn't
best.
it?
Yeah.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
I mean, what do you? I mean, it could be. It probably could be the top starting lineup in MLB history. Just those
It could
3 guys.
be.
Yeah.
It could be because I mean, you've got Will Smith, who their catcher, who's usually a 30 home run guy. You've got Jason Hayward, who resurrected his career last year and did very, very well. You've got Gavin Lux coming back. He does very, very well. Max Muncy, I believe he hit 30 or 40 last year. So he is very effective. And then you've got Freddie and you've got Mookie. So, and with Ohtani now, it's a lot of offense. There is no question about it.
Yeah, and you mentioned him basically deferring his money to the end of his contract, but Dodgers are probably going to make up this money pretty fast, especially with all the money they're going to get from Japan, overseas, all the Dodgers fans out there. I mean, it's $700 million over 10 years. It's not going to take 10 years for Dodgers to probably make $700 million off of him. And so and especially with him deferring all that money to the end of the contract, they're definitely making out a big, big time with him.
And check this out. So we found out that the last season with the Angels, especially when he was pitching and hitting in, every game up until August, every homestand his jersey would sell out. They made millions of dollars selling his jerseys. When that hits Dodger blue, I'm sure it will be the exact same thing. Every homestand, that jersey will sell out.
Now I know this is pretty well known already, but it's Shohei Ohtani, notorious, and you already alluded to it too, notorious for not telling people much, if anything. A lot of that's based on his agent too, instructs him to do that. A lot of that's not just him, but his agent as well. I know there were some reports coming out, and like I said, from what I just said, this might be wrong, but in speculation. But I heard he might not want a big spotlight next year where he played. And then, of course, he signed with the Dodgers, which you can't get more of a spotlight than that. So were you surprised, given some of the reports we were hearing about him, not wanting that, that big, that big prime time feel? Are you surprised that he did go to the Dodgers? Because for me, that's why Toronto did make sense for me,
Me
because
too.
it was a little bit of a smaller market where he could, kind of have less eyes on him, which is some reports were leaning that's what he wanted. But in light of that, were you surprised that he, ultimately went to the Dodgers, given, what he was saying, well, potentially?
I was surprised. Well, I was surprised. To be honest with you, when it took so long to get this decided for him, I thought he's going to Toronto or maybe he stays with the Angels because he pretty much could hide there. And his agent dictated his career, and the Angels, they went along with it. At Dodger Stadium, when you've got Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman who talk to the media, have their own charities, do events for the Dodgers. The Dodgers are they're an international brand. Let's face it. I mean, when you've got a history that includes Tommy Lasorda and Vin Scully and all these players from just historically, from Steve Garvey and Fernando, and the list goes on and on and on. He's about to walk into that, and it's very difficult to hide in that atmosphere. So to answer your question, it's the thing we're all most interested to find out is, are you going to, from day one, tell everybody I'm here, but I don't want to talk to anyone? Because I don't see how that's going to work out at Dodger Stadium. I really don't.
It's a good point, because I like we've just been saying this whole time, he's someone that doesn't like to really give much to people. He likes to stay under the radar, doesn't really like telling people much, if anything at all. And you really can't do that with the Dodgers. So it's going to be interesting to see how that part of it all unravels. Let's talk about, before moving on to football, Rams, Chargers. I do want to ask one more question about the Dodgers.
Sure.
Just take me in the mindset of the fans from the expectation standpoint of it now. No, I mean, I know it's only one player still, but one of the best offensive players, if not the best offensive player in the league. And of course, pitching still has to be determined, this offseason. But currently the betting favorites I'm looking at FanDuel now, 550 betting favorites to win the World Series. Of course, we all saw how they turned out in the playoffs this last year.
Yeah.
What is the expectations for this team now? I mean, is it kind of like a no excuse type of mindset now going into next year?
I mean, I think that depending on the starting pitching that they get, I mean, even with Ohtani, look, Ohtani adds a huge amount right now, but they cannot walk into the season with the same pitching that they had last year, because as you just said, we saw what happened at the end of the year. That week off is a real thing. And I mean, I've heard so many different thoughts on that, but it is a real thing. They cannot take a week off. So how they're going to deal with that, I don't know. But one player, like you said, even though it's Ohtani, for the fans, the expectation is World Series, World Series, World Series, World Series. But you've got to get some starting pitching in there right away.
Yeah, no, and we'll see what happens. I know that's a big part of the reason why he's taking that pay cut, of course. And now it's time for the front office to get some work done.
Yes.
Move on to football now. Chargers, Rams, take your pick. Let's start with the Chargers. We'll get the Rams in a second. Dennis.
Okay.
Played pretty good on Sunday despite the loss. But Chargers, let me ask you, let's start with the Chargers with this simple question. Can Staley do anything the rest of the year to save his job, or is it pretty decided that he's going to have a hard time keeping his job once this year ends?
Somebody asked him that yesterday post game, if he was concerned about his job, and he sort of gave the standard line, which he would, just that all I can keep doing right now is just preparing for the next game. We have a short week. We're playing the Raiders Thursday night. And so the thing that is the most strange is when you go into that locker room midweek, it's almost like I feel like it's like a hot air balloon that somebody let all of the air out of. And it's just kind of like nothing. It's very, just the air is all out. And I feel like for whatever reason, that coaching staff that is working within those walls right now is just not working out with Justin Herbert, with that defense, with the special teams, to be able to pull it all together. and there's so much. You want to talk about expectations. I mean, think about it. You had a Joey Bosa, you've got, a great quarterback, you've
guys,
got wide, I mean, Justin Herbert, you've got really good wide receivers, you have a pretty good running game. So for that to all have kind of unraveled the way it did this year, and you couldn't really put your finger on it, like somebody once told me, if a football team is doing really good, they praise the quarterback. If they're doing really bad, it's always the coach's fault.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've had this conversation before. Brandon Staley's got one more year left on this contract, and I do not know how they keep him for another year. But the Spanos family they don't like to pay people and then fire them and then have to pay them. So I don't. If he were to stay another year, I don't know how he stays another year. Nicest guy in the world. I just don't think he's a right fit for that team.
Yeah, I mean, of course, the more a contract goes, the less you have to pay out. Of course, the less left on a contract, the less you have to pay out. But yeah, I mean, it hasn't been Herbert for sure, right? I mean, Herbert's been playing pretty good, all things considered. Wide receivers just not really getting it done. Really bad drop passes. Not as bad as the Chiefs, of course, but overall, just not really making crucial catches when they need to. Defense letting them down. Have been letting them down.
How do you have Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack, Derwin James? I mean, these are big stars. These are big name players that, for some reason, there's no continuity. It's not working. And even with Justin Herbert, with Kellen Moore coming over as offensive coordinator, we thought we were going to see him really go on an upward module. Okay. And really he stayed like this. And of course, now it's really dipping down, but there's something, especially yesterday's game. They were 0 for 12 on third down. And I don't know how many times he was sacked, multiple times that Justin Herbert was sacked, which eventually led to the finger. And now, it's broken. He's going to be out. Probably it hasn't been noted for the rest of the year, but he's definitely not going to play Thursday night. I would think they would probably shut him down for the season because it's on his throwing hand. And, I asked him last night, I said, are you in pain? He said it didn't feel good, and he has a hard time throwing with that when his fingers are obviously not working right with his throwing hand. So I don't know. I mean, he just seemed so out of sync last night, overthrowing a lot of wide receivers. And there's something not right about that team. And we're all trying to put our fingers on it because there's just too much talent on the team.
I mean, look at the defense. They allow the fourth most total yards, fourth most passing. And then the run game, they're having some trouble with as well, stopping the run game, all things considered. So it's going to be, a lot of things get figured out now. And now Justin Herbert's finger is officially broken. He's going to be out. How long did you say he might be out for? If you did say that, I missed
Easton Stick will definitely be starting on Thursday against the Raiders. But they haven't said for sure if he's out the rest of the year, but they've only got 3 more games. So, you're not going to put, yeah, exactly. And at this point, I don't know that they might have like this big of a chance maybe of a playoff berth, but it's really not looking good.
Easton Stick. Wow.
Easton Stick.
As we all know of Easton Stick. Rams side of the ball playing, get to the Rams now. They've been playing really good. That's all I have to really, I'll let you go on from there, but I don't want to lead you too broad, but they've been playing really, really good these last 4 weeks.
What's interesting about the Rams is this year, everybody kind of went into it like, they're not going to be that good. Last year, of course, was the hangover year after Super Bowl, and it was really kind of disastrous. But this year, it's been interesting, of course, with Puka Nacua. He is a phenom rookie wide receiver that has just been playing like a stud. Of course, he's got Cooper Kupp to look up to, and the Coopers helped him a lot. But the guy's got so much natural talent. He's a total gamer, and he has just been fantastic. And so you've got him that nobody really thought would, matter and be really effective. And he has been, and so that's been a really nice surprise for them. And then you had John Johnson coming back, who came back to the Rams on defense. He was in Cleveland after he left the Rams. He comes back to the Rams for the league minimum this year, and now he's making a huge impact on defense. So their defense has really come together. Raheem Morris has done an exceptional job. There's already been stories written about, Raheem did such a great job with the defense this year that, he'll be a head coach next year for sure. And we love him. We love having him. We hope not, but we also wish him the best because he's such a phenomenal coach. But they have really turned it around defensively. Of course, they still have Aaron Donald, and there's just so many really good players defensively. So they've made a big difference. And, as long as we can hold Matthew Stafford together, and, he's older. We all know that, but he can do things that Sean McVay has told us many times that most quarterbacks just simply cannot do, throws that other guys could not make because he has been in this league and he has been doing this for so long. So we have seen a Rams team that's been a really nice surprise. And in that game yesterday, you saw that they were really going toe to toe with the Baltimore Ravens, who are arguably the best team, in the AFC. So we'll see, we'll see how that goes. But I think they're doing great. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they win their last 3 games, except they do have to play San Francisco. So that's going to be a bit of a challenge, but they're playing. I don't know if people were counting them out. Sometimes I think teams do that. Honestly, they're like, oh yeah, it's just the Rams. And they do look at film, they do study players, but you have to wonder that when you see the way teams play sometimes, like, did they not look at the film? What is going on here? So I don't know. They're playing great, and we'll see.
No, I mean, they've been playing, like I said already, they've been playing amazing since the week 9 bye, the last 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Lost to Baltimore Sunday, but they played Cooper Nakua played great again. Cooper Kupp played great. Stafford may have had his best game of the year, maybe. I mean, you think of on Sunday, they racked up 410 yards against Baltimore defense, didn't turn the ball over once despite rainy conditions, picked off Lamar Jackson. So it's complimentary football, all things considered. Their offense is playing good and their defense is, amazing too. And so one of the hottest teams in the NFC right now, besides, outside maybe the Cowboys and 49ers. Let me ask you this though. Funny. I mean, what do you think the win total is going to be for a NFC wild card spot? Because only 4 teams, have 9 or more wins, and 3 of those 4 are the divisional leaders. So everyone else seems to be at 7 wins or 6 wins. Of course, the Rams being one of those teams with 6. So, do you think 8 wins might get a team into the playoffs in the NFC this year?
It very well could. I was looking at that list as well yesterday, and I saw so many 6 and 7, 7 and 6, all the way down. And you're thinking, wow, there's been such a change from maybe even week 7 on, maybe it's that middle part of the season toward the end, but there has been just this drastic change with teams. For a while, it looked like Pittsburgh was very good, and then they've lost some games that you were kind of head scratchers, like, wow, how did you guys lose that? And we've seen some of these teams where, like a Kansas City, that is a very good, solid team, that are they getting figured out, or are they making mistakes? Sometimes it's bad calls, but they're not winning every game. Again, yes, they are the top of the division. Look at Denver. I mean, Denver, I have to say, though, Sean Payton went in there and he is definitely bringing that team back to life. But I was looking at the standings and I'm like, wow, Denver is right in there. They haven't, they're still involved. What are they? Are they 7 and 6 now?
They are 7 and 6. Yep.
Yeah. So right. So they're kind of in the middle, and we've got all these kind of in the middle teams, and with a couple of games left, it's going to be very interesting to see how that is all going to come out for a wild card.
Well, they're very similar. So it's funny because, you can almost argue the Broncos are the Rams of the AFC, a team that has a pretty easy schedule, all things considered, going down the stretch. I mean, the Broncos do play the Lions next week, but after that, the Lions have looked pretty bad lately, especially on defense. And then after that, they play the Patriots, Chargers, and Raiders. And of course, they're at 7 and 6. Probably a 9 total wins will be what you need in the AFC. But then you look at the Rams and their schedule coming up. We already talked about maybe how an 8-win team could get into the wild card. But the Rams play the Commanders next week, then the Saints, then the Giants, and then have to finish up with the 49ers. But if they can get 3 of these 4 wins, and maybe even 2 of these 4 wins coming up, they're going to be a playoff team most likely, especially if they get 3 wins. But like the Broncos, though, my point, they're definitely a team that, despite being in the middle of the pack, I would say, and I want to get your thoughts on this, Spear, I would say they're a team that a team would not want to face in the playoffs, especially early, given how they're playing and firing right now.
I totally agree. It's one of those teams where, like I said before, you kind of went into the season thinking they're not that good. They started off kind of slowly, and now they've built up to the point where, again, yeah, you wouldn't want to play that team because that defense is no joke. And they showed that yesterday against arguably one of the very best teams in the Baltimore Ravens. So you don't want to have to either come into LA or have them come into your house and just explode like that, because you could be getting that same Rams team. And with those players, they are a fired up clubhouse anyway. I have to tell you, it's the energy when you are at the Rams is, I mean, you can feel it. It's everybody is really upbeat and there's a lot of laughter. Having a lot of the younger players in there this year has brought life back to that clubhouse and to that team. So it's really been a different feeling. There's more than just like, a feeling of hope. It's a feeling of, we are getting better and better every week. So look out, we're coming for you, and that is a lot of fun when you're covering football. And obviously when you're playing football, because you want to have that kind of exuberance, that kind of energy. And somebody like head coach Sean McVay, he just encourages that, when he's out there and you're watching practice, there's just, you can just feel it. You can see it. It's palpable. And we saw it in the preseason and just thought, okay, well, this is fun. There's a lot of young guys, but boy, they have caught on quick. And I agree with you. I would not want to have to meet up with them in a wild card game because you're getting a kind of an eye of what you might get.
No, and it only matters how you play at the end of the season, really. Look at the losses, though. 49ers, beginning of the year. Bengals the week after that, but with Joe Burrow. Eagles 2 weeks after that. And, other losses they've had this year. Cowboys, and then the Ravens this past week. Only bad losses you could really say would be Steelers and Packers. Just especially, Packers have been playing pretty good, but Packers did beat them 20-3, which wasn't the greatest, great loss by them. But yeah, I mean, overall, the teams that they've lost to have been pretty good teams, and they've definitely had one of the greatest turnarounds, if not the best turnaround of any team in the league this year. And so, yeah, we'll see if they can continue to play how they've been playing. What's been the hype with Puka Nacua? I mean, how excited have fans been for his uprising and how he's been playing this year in his rookie year?
It is so huge. I love going down pregame because we're on the sidelines and the fans that come in early to the game are just screaming his name. And you can hear the Puka whenever he makes a touchdown or catches a ball. And whenever the fans already kind of give you a nickname and they're yelling your name, and he is it's still so new to him, that he is just taking it all in. And we just love that. I hope he can keep that and hold on to it, because it's so cool to go from virtual obscurity to, wow, people know who I am and they're yelling my name and they bought my jersey. And, he has just been so fun to watch. And when you see him making these unbelievable catches, and a couple weeks ago against the Browns, he got knocked out of the game. It looked like in fact, Sean McVay said, I thought he died. And then he jumps back up and
tough guy.
There he is. He's okay, and he's back in the game. And that also fires those guys up, not to mention the fans. When you see somebody get a hit like that, and then they're like, I am back in, and that's who he is. So he's a gamer, and the fans, they're feeding off of it. They love it.
Let's finish up with the Lakers. Maria, this has been awesome, like it always is. Lakers just won. I know NBA is obviously still early in the season. Many people say that they might not start paying much more attention to the NBA until maybe after Christmas, but they did win the in-season tournament. Of course, like I just said, NBA not super popular in the beginning of the year, especially with football still going on. But that's one of the reasons why the in-season tournament was made, to get people more interested in the NBA early on in the season. And as a little bit of an aside, I want to get your thoughts on the tournament so far. I mean, we talked about it at length on this show, how successful it was. And not many people, including, the three of us on this show, me, Zach, and Justin, none of us thought it was going to be as successful as it was. I think ratings were up, in the nights that the games were being played, ratings were up close to like 20%. And, the actual tournament itself, once the brackets came out, were really exciting too, and people loved it. And so despite the courts, I would say it was an overall success.
Yeah. It's so funny you bring that up too, because a lot of people here, a lot of reporters, we're kind of gauging with this Ohtani stuff, and then there's football. And, for us, LeBron James' son, Bronny, had his first game back yesterday at USC, which was like just that was a huge game. Yep. And of course, LeBron was there with his family, and there was a few of us reporters saying, okay, well, we have talked about the Bronny's game, we've talked about football, we were talking about Ohtani, and we're like, and the Lakers win the in-season tournament. And I feel like it was like an afterthought, even though I think for a lot of fans, like you mentioned, people were watching it. And I think that it was really good actually for the game, because a lot of us were asking the same thing, like, do you like it? How they kind of throw it in the middle like this, and which games count for the season and which games don't? And so I think it was a little confusing, but at the same time, I think you're right. I think that people actually started watching it, and it kind of hyped them up a little bit to have something that was really mattering in the middle of the season versus, oh, well, it's just game number 30, game number 31, and it's kind of like baseball. Like you're just kind of going through it until you get to, later in the season. But for the Lakers, it was really good because they kind of had a slow start. The Clippers had a very slow start. I mean, they've got nothing but superstars on that team, and they're just now starting to win games. So we're kind of hoping that will continue for them. But yeah, I think that the in-season tournament is really a good thing. And of course, for Laker fans, they love it. I mean, Laker fans are very loyal. They're very dedicated. They go to games. It doesn't matter if Ohtani, whatever. They go to games. So they're in. They're all in.
Yeah. I mean, especially if there's no football going on. I mean, it's still a great, great product, the Lakers. But it sounds like Los Angeles fans as a whole, outside the strict Laker fans themselves, it sounds like their minds were kind of occupied with other things going on, especially given football being on, and then Ohtani signing and Dodgers coming up. Like it sounded like their mindset were a little, had divided attention, as you would.
I think so. And we talk about that a lot during baseball season, because in the summertime, they'll talk about like the dog days of the summer, but there's people going to the beach here. It's not like in other parts of the country where, if it's a beautiful day, there are so many other things that people might do except maybe go to a baseball game. But, now that football is back in LA, that really takes over the season, especially if baseball, they don't go very far into the playoffs with the Angels and the Dodgers. So then you've got, you're ending in September, and you've got October, November, December of just full of football. And that's basically what we've had. And there's a little bit of hockey going on, obviously, and the Kings are getting a little better. So people are starting to pay attention to that. But yeah, I think when there's just all of these sports happening at one time, and then you're going to throw in this tournament that was like, wait a minute, what is going on here? So it is a lot going on at one time, but we love it here. We love all the parody of it.
Yeah. I guess my last question is, Bronny, obviously coming back USC. You mentioned that already. Bad loss, all things considered, unfortunately, given his return to Long Beach State. But do you think the Lakers will draft Bronny, or maybe another team to try to entice? I know that's been a big storyline this whole year, even before he came into the NCAA. I know that was a big storyline that teams would want to draft him for even just enticing LeBron to maybe join their team as well.
Well, and you know that LeBron has said openly that he wants to play his last year with his son. And so my question actually the other day to somebody was, well, is there something in LeBron's contract where they'll have to draft Bronny next year so that, they can play for a season together? And of course, all of my NBA guys are like, no, they won't do that, because then they lose a pick, and if he's not good, and so forth and so on. But I think that, at this point, honestly, LeBron has openly talked about when his son, had the heart issue, and he was just so relieved that he was okay and he came through it, and really, I was just so thrilled for him yesterday that he has the opportunity to get back out there and play basketball again. So I think we're going to have to kind of like do a wait and see with him to see, can he continue to play? Does he have the stamina to play? And really just send him good thoughts. But as far as when or if he will be drafted and play with LeBron, I think that's kind of still up in the air.
Yeah, and you forgot the human element to it with everything,
Yeah.
that happened with his heart. But yeah, good to hear that he's okay. Time will
Yeah.
tell, though. USC, pretty tough season so far for them.
Yeah.
And I know we touched base on that earlier in the show, but yeah, it's a tough season overall for USC. But we'll see if they can turn it around.
Yeah, basketball, football, it's been a little tough the last month or so.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, well, Maria, this has been awesome as always. I can't thank you for coming on.
Absolutely.
Always a fun
Always a
talk.
pleasure.
So we'll be in touch,
Very
and we'll be on. I'd love to have you on in the future. Talk some
Absolutely.
always
We'll
things
talk
going
more.
on with LA, right? Oh,
Yeah, we'll
no
talk
matter what.
more Ohtani when he gets here, and I'll let you know if Joe Kelly gave up his number 17 for Ohtani. I think he probably will.
You think you will? Oh, yeah. Okay, you think you will?
I think
Yeah,
so.
I think his hands might be a little tied, but
He'll probably give it maybe $1 million thank you for giving up your number. Would you give it up? I think I'd give it up.
yeah. I mean, I would, because you're getting a lot of scrutiny if you don't, and I don't think it's really worth it, to be honest, for a number. The money is not the really issue. It's more people coming at you online for not doing it is more what I would be concerned about. But all right, Maria, we'll be in touch.
Absolutely.
And we'll have
All
you on
right.
again.
Take care. Happy holidays.
You too. Take care. All right, Zach, let's finish up with our intake and outtakes of the week. Zach, what is your intake of the week?
Yeah, my intake of the week is going to be that the Buffalo Bills are the most dangerous of all the 7-6 teams, because they're the one that I think has a chance to actually make a run in the playoffs. I mean, we talked about all they got to do. They got the Cowboys coming up. They've got the Dolphins coming up. If they get 10 wins, I think that's going to be enough to get them in the playoffs, because I thought they needed to split the Eagles and Chiefs games, and they were able to do that. Josh Allen, yes, he's turned the ball over 9 consecutive games, but there's a reason people think Josh Allen's one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the league, because he makes plays like he made at the end of the game yesterday. Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, that's still a very good receiving core. And the defense did a great job against that Kansas City offense, holding them to 17 points. If the Bills make the playoffs, could they be one of those teams that we've seen, the 2010 Packers, the 2011 Giants, the 2012 Ravens? We've seen some teams lately go on some big, deep runs, that teams that just barely snuck into the playoffs go on and win the Super Bowl because they've been playing playoff football for about a month. Maybe the Bills could fit that bill, no pun intended, this year, especially with the AFC being as wide open as it seems.
Yeah, and you said it, that win on Sunday was much, I mean, it was needed, must win for them to have any chances going down the stretch and to make the playoffs. And they're hot right now, all playing pretty good, especially on offense, and we'll see what happens to them. My intake, ESPN released their way too early all-star lineups. Tyrese Halliburton and Tyrese Maxey, front runners for the front court duo for the East. The Tyrese takeover is real for sure. Halliburton, we all know, came out as a star in the in-season tournament. That just ended this past Saturday. His true shooting percentage, which factors in, of course, threes and twos and free throws, is 17% higher than the league average. He's carrying 26.5% of the usage rate for the Pacers, and is helping the Pacers be one of the best offensive efficiency teams in the country. Maxey, of course, averaging a league high 38.4 minutes per game, following Harden's departure, of course. 27.1 points per game. That's 12th in the league. He has a 60% true shooting percentage. And he's playing all things. He's playing really, really well too. And he's also done a remarkable job avoiding turnovers with a 4.8 assist to turnover ratio. And he ranks 6th among players with at least 500 minutes in that category. So yeah, I mean, with guys like Damian Lillard, Donovan Mitchell, Trae Young in the East, this young duo is turning heads and clearly the leaders to maybe even take over the All-Star game for the East and lead the front court. And it's been pretty amazing to see these young players come up. Like I said, the Tyrese takeover is real, and it's something to look forward to down the stretch, especially as we head into the midseason All-Star game. What's your outtake of the week, Zach?
Outtake is there are way too many bowl games. I'm sorry. We don't need to see 44, 42, whatever the number is. When over half the FBS is able to make bowl games, it devalues their importance. And you look Saturday, there's 3 bowl games, I think, that start Howard, Florida A&M, Jacksonville State, Louisiana, Miami, Appalachian State, UCLA, Boise State. So there's going to be 6 bowl games on Saturday. But the thing is, there's 3 NFL games with all having playoff implications going on. 7-6 Minnesota versus 7-6 Cincinnati, 7-6 Pittsburgh against the 7-6 Colts, and then you've got 7-6 Denver against a fading Detroit team. So all 3 of those Saturday games have significant meaning. So let's just say that I will not be watching any of the bowl games on Saturday because they're meaningless. And outside of the playoff, all these bowl games are essentially meaningless. I realize why they exist, obviously to make money, but there just needs. We need to go back to about 20 bowl games. We don't need 6-6 teams going to bowls.
Yeah, a fun game to play one time would just be to name random names of bowl games and having to guess if they're real or not.
Yeah. Oh, I've done that.
Yeah, have you?
Oh, yeah.
I think something I thought of before, just with friends or something, just name real names and fake names and see if people can guess which games are actual names of actual bowl games or not, because some of these names are just ridiculous. Maybe we can, I don't know, do something with that later on. But my outtake of the week, I already mentioned it already, the controversial call against against the Chiefs this past weekend. I mean, Tony, he definitely was offsides, but again, like I said, I think it doesn't really affect the play of the game, but offsides is offsides, all things considered. Mahomes, I think in particular, my outtake will be Mahomes and Andy Reid taking their frustrations out on the refs. I've never seen Mahomes so animated in his whole career. The way he was on the sidelines, and especially even after the game, how he was talking, I never really saw Mahomes like that before. Clearly frustrated, but doesn't really have any stance to be that frustrated because, like I said, it was definitely offsides, and the refs did get it right. They bring in whatever his name is, on Sunday Night Football. Or not Sunday Night Football, whatever the role analyst is for CBS. They brought him in. He confirmed it. They had people on ESPN after the fact. They confirmed it. Refs on Twitter confirming it as well. I mean, it definitely was offsides. Everyone's saying it. So I know it was the spur of the moment, in the heat of the moment, but Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes don't really have much of a soapbox to sit on because it's pretty clear and the big consensus online is that he definitely was offsides. So, all right, good show, Zach. Justin, back on Thursday. Gonna try to get somebody on from University of Texas. Texas obviously coming up in about 3 weeks here. Playoff game against Washington. So we'll break all that down with him. Hopefully, get somebody for that. But until then, we'll see you Thursday and keep on traveling.